Hello and welcome into another edition of The Final Drive here on DMVSTREAM.com. I'm Jeremy Huber, again your host for these Friday night proceedings. Another interesting week of high school football in the DMV. We'll take you through every single bit of it tonight. Plenty coming up on the show. We will hear on tonight's show from the head coach of the number 6 Westfield Bulldogs. They get a big win tonight over Stonebridge. Kyle Simmons will join the program. Also joining the show tonight, head coach of the Blue Knights. They get a nice victory over rival HD Woodson. Jason Lane will join the program. Also, we'll hear from the head coach of Bishop Ireton. They're surprising right now at 4-0 on the season. Their head coach, Tony Verducci, will join the program as well. So all that coming up. Also, efforting maybe to check in with the head coach of the St. John's Cadets, Joe Patterson, as his squad pulled a nice win off tonight. That's really the story of the night so far, as number 18 St. John's takes down number 2 Good Counsel 29-23 in 3 overtimes tonight. Big win for the Cadets in that one to go ahead and get the victory. Of course, top of the poll right now, it's number 1 DeMatha. They had no letdown against St. Mary's. Riken Stags struggled with Riken last year, not so much tonight, as they win 49-0 after, again, their tough start to the season. This is the first game of WCAC play for the Stags, and it looked mighty impressive with the 49-0 whitewashing of St. Mary's Riken. Elsewhere, number 3 Damascus rolled over Poolsville 49-0. Swarming Hornets jumped out to a real big lead, kind of coasted home in that one. Interesting one down in the with Lake Braddock, number 4 Lake Braddock. Again, a close one, but again, a win. Bruins knock off West Potomac 24-21. Of course, we heard from head coach Jeremiah Ross last week as Wolverines giving Lake Braddock all they could handle, but Bruins showing the heart of a champion as they get the win tonight 24-21. Number 5 South County survives West Springfield 42-40. So that district looking mighty good this year, as those 4 teams will be locking horns in some exciting shootouts probably expected down in that Springfield and Lorton area. Also tonight, as we mentioned, number 6 Westfield, a 28-7 winner over number 17 Stonebridge. Number 7 Old Mill stays undefeated. They knock off county rival Arundel 29-13. Number 8 Duval at Parkdale tomorrow. That's 2 p.m. start. Same for number 9 Wise. They'll be at Northwestern tomorrow. Number 20 Centerville falls to number 10 Tuscarora 49-42. This one was a back and forth one. Centerville jumped out to a nice lead. Tuscarora came storming back, took their own big lead. Centerville comes back, tied it up, and then Tuscarora with a late touchdown to go ahead and get the 7-point win. Expect them to move up the poll with another quality win. Number 11, Seneca Valley, all over Rockville, 49-0. It was number 12, Broad Run, edging Briar Woods, 31-24. Again, we talked to head coach of the Spartans, Matt Griffiths, last week after his team's impressive win over Centerville. And, you could tell in his voice it was, hey, we obviously this is a big win for us tonight, but it'll be a tough one as we know we're going to have a tough one against a Briar Woods, their crosstown rival, and he was exactly right as Spartans get the 7-point win. Number 13 Northwest over Whitman 42-7 tonight. Number 14 Quince Orchard Knights win over Clarksburg 55-14. It was number 16 Howard over Mount Hebron 35-0. Number 18 Gonzaga in action tomorrow against McNamara at 1 p.m. Also, that's your last game of the All-Met Sports Top 20. Let's go over to your private schools. Bullis with a win over Avalon tonight, 36-18. It was Riverdale Baptist bouncing back from their loss to Spalding. They beat Landon 28-7. Elsewhere, Pilate fell to Archbishop Curley 14-7 tonight. John Paul the Great over Paul the Sixth Catholic 31-14. Elsewhere, aforementioned Spalding a win over St. Francis 28-14. Ballou in D.C., a winner over H.D. Woodson 8-6. Knights get the win, a little bit of payback for their loss in the Turkey Bowl last year. Phelps edges Cardozo 24-23. It was Dunbar over Coolidge 20-14 tonight. Eastern over McKinley 25-23. That one an interesting one. McKinley played a real tough schedule, probably trying to get themselves ready for the Stripes division in the DCIAA, and against the quality Eastern team tonight. Come close, but not close enough. Of course, they'll have plenty of battles probably throughout the season. Bell big over Theodore Roosevelt tonight, 50-20. Elsewhere, it was Wilson over Anacostia, 53-20. Over in Maryland, Annapolis beat South River 20-12. Blair big over Churchill, 45-0. It was Walkersville over Blake, 48-0. Marriott's Ridge over Centennial, 28-3. It was Douglas over Gwynn Park, 37-8. It was Largo over Forestville, 14-6. Elsewhere, Glenelg beats Hammond 21-6 tonight. It was Paint Branch over Kennedy by a 47-7 count. Patuxent big over La Plata tonight, 42-0. Elsewhere in Maryland, it was Thomas Stone knocking off Lackey by a count of 33-6. Oakland Mills over Longreach tonight, 43-0. Calvert over McDonough, 40-8. Broadneck knocked off North County, 31-13. North Point over Westlake, 23-7. Meade big over Northeast, 47-7. So Meade kind of getting their footing after a tough start to the season. Elsewhere, it was Northern over Leonardtown, 29-7. Bethesda Chevy Chase gets a victory over Northwood tonight, 28-7. Reservoir win over River Hill tonight, 12-9. Of course, last week talked to head coach of Howard County, Bruce Strunk. He said some real good things about Reservoir, and it kind of came true tonight, beating a quality River Hill team. And elsewhere, it was Sherwood, again with a nice victory. Sherwood with a 50-20 win over Springbrook. And, of course, watch out for Sherwood. They're a team that can really compete with some of the quality schools over there in 4A in Montgomery County, like Northwest. Some of the others over there. So it should be an interesting one for sure. What they've got coming up, they play, I believe, 2 weeks from now. They'll be taking on Northwest. Actually, next week, taking on Northwest. So that should be a good one. Of course, also they have Blair, Paint Branch on their schedule as well. So should be an interesting one season for Sherwood, again, as they move to 4-0 on the season. Severna Park big over Southern, 37-0. It was Chopticon over St. Charles, 13-7. Watkins Mill beat Magruder, 22-19. Richard Montgomery over Wooten, 21-20. Wild Lake over Atherton, 34-0. Over in Virginia, nice win tonight again for Brentsville as they go ahead and beat New School Riverside by a count of 42-6. Brentsville, again, had some struggles. Really a quality program back in the day at a lower level, had some trouble since they've come up to a higher level, but now they move to 4-0 on the season and really doing some things down in the Prince William County. Again, one of the very smaller schools in that county, but able to get a big win tonight, 42-6. Brook Point beats Osborne 35-20. It was Champ big over Parkview, 44-0. Elsewhere, Chantilly again with a points barrage as they beat Herndon 69-31. Loudon Valley, a nice win tonight over Dominion, 26-13. Freedom of Woodbridge over Garfield, 56-26. Heritage knocks off Rockridge, 51-27. Heritage now with their first 5-0 start in their school's history. We talked to head coach Reed Prosser a couple weeks ago on the show. Again, pretty proud of what his squad has been able to do so far. And at 5-0 on the season with some tough games coming up, but the Pride doing some good things. Again, they'll be taking on Woodgrove and Champ back-to-back weeks, kind of the kingpins of the lower level schools in Loudoun County. Should be some interesting things for Heritage ahead. Edison over Jefferson, 52-26. It was Madison over Langley, 14-7. Freedom of South Riding beats Loudoun County, 40-22. South Lakes over McLean, 42-0. North Stafford beat Battlefield, 20-17. It was Oakton over Robinson, Robinson over Oakton tonight, big, 42-17. Stafford beat Osborne Park, 41-21. Mountain View over Patriot, 56-35. Potomac Falls beat Marshall 31-13. Potomac of Virginia over Stonewall Jackson 45-7. It was Lee over Stewart 14-9. Also, T.C. Williams over Mount Vernon 27-6. Annandale edges W.T. Woodson 48-43. It was Wakefield over Falls Church 24-20. Hayfield over Washington Lee 35-16 after some early struggles for the Hawks. Elsewhere, it was Woodgrove beating Millbrook in double overtime 31-28, and Yorktown over Fairfax 28-7. Have a score that we don't have? Go ahead and tweet it to us at DMVStream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMVStream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, coming up on the show, lots to do. We'll hear from Westfield head coach Kyle Simmons, also Blue head coach Jason Lane, and head coach of Bishop Ireton, Tony Verducci, also efforting to talk to the head coach of the St. John's Cadets, Joe Patterson, his squad with a big upset win over Good Counsel tonight. So that's what's coming up on the Final Drive. Again, want to go ahead and get to us, do it via Twitter at DMVStream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMVStream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. More of the Final Drive coming up right after this. Looking for some of the best barbecue in the area? Well, then come on down to Monk's. Monk's Barbecue has all your favorites: delicious pulled pork, tender, moist brisket, and dry rubbed ribs that just fall off the bone, as well as specialty items like pulled chicken, pastrami, and Kansas City burnt ends. Add in delicious sides like Monk's special baked beans, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, vinegar coleslaw, and many more, and you can't get any better. That's Monk's Barbecue in the heart of Loudoun County, online at monksq.com. That's monks in the letter Q.com. And go to their Facebook page to find out more about their live music and drinks.
DMVSTREAM.com produces live broadcasts for professional, semi-pro, and amateur sporting events, as well as colleges, universities, high schools, AAU, and youth tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic. With a client list that includes ESPN, The Washington Post, Monumental Sports Network, CBS.com, USAFootball.com, USLacrosse.org, NCAA.com, the National Federation of High School Sports, and Georgetown University, among others, Synthesis Multimedia has emerged as the Mid-Atlantic's top provider of sports multimedia. Contact us today to learn more about streaming your events live.
Are you a fan of high school sports? Does high school sports attract the type of customers you want for your business? If so, then consider advertising here on The Final Drive. The Final Drive on DMVStream.com is a weekly show dedicated to high school football in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We update scores and talk to the movers and shakers from Friday night's top games, and we preview the big matchups from Saturday's action. So consider being a part of The Final Drive. For more information about advertising on The Final Drive, contact Jeremy Huber at jrh0001@gmail.com. That's jrh0001@gmail.com. Montgomery Shade and Awning is a third-generation family business that sells and installs shade systems utilizing awnings and canopies. They specialize in both commercial and residential awnings and have been serving Northern Virginia since 1975. So check out what Rob, Lewis, Brian, and Tom can do for you. Montgomery Shade and Awning. Call 1-800-300-1941 or find them online at montgomeryawning.com. And welcome back into the Final Drive, and we are joined on the show right now by the head coach of the St. John's Cadets, Joe Patterson. His squad getting a big win tonight in triple overtime over number 2 Good Counsel. Coach Patterson, congratulations on the huge win.
Oh, thank you for that.
Obviously, tonight, that's a thrilling ball game, about as high level as you're going to see in high school football. Tell us about the feeling from your guys after getting that big victory.
Well, certainly I think the kids appreciate what went into the victory. They had a great day all day, from our pregame meal to the warm-ups, even the bus ride. The kids were very dialed in. And to see it come through in a couple of big plays in overtime, just fantastic for them.
Talk about in a matchup like this, everyone always talks about, and I've seen it firsthand watching WCAC football, it's almost like a mini SEC game considering the athletes and everything on the field. Did you see your guys kind of having to dig extra deep maybe than even a normal high school football game considering how physical these games can be?
Oh, certainly. Everything up to this point, all those games matter, but they don't count. WCAC is what everything builds to for us, and to start off with good counsel and to have the Matha next week, obviously we get a chance to jump right into it.
And I guess the question being, obviously you guys played an interesting out-of-conference schedule. We went down to Florida twice, played Steubenville, usually a very good team in Ohio, and then you jump in early. Do you feel like having a schedule like this has kind of had your guys focused the whole time by saying, hey, we got to be at our A game right away. We can't kind of ease our way into this?
Yeah, I thought the schedule worked out very well for us. It built to this moment tonight. I thought that we saw three very different teams in the preseason, and each game allowed us to work on something different. And I thought that we certainly learned from our preseason games. And the kids came out today, I thought, as prepared as they could have been.
And obviously getting the win tonight. You guys had a pretty good job on defense. This was a low-scoring game throughout until you got into the overtime. Obviously some extra scoring there. Terrell Hall had a good game for you guys. Talk about him and the rest of what your defense was able to do.
Well, I thought that several guys just stepped up. We talked about playing fundamentally sound, running our feet on the tackles. And I thought we did a much better job tackling than we had in the preseason. And I thought that the effort, we played pretty good assignment football. And then obviously in critical junctures and critical moments, the defense came through. After the council scored on the very first play of the first overtime, from that point forward, the defense just played lights out.
Yeah, Hall had a big sack there in the third overtime to give you guys a chance to go ahead and get the win. Offensively, you get the win, and it sounds like Brandon Parker, the great writer for the Washington Post in the high school section, saying that the last run by Ryan Vessels on the touchdown run carried a load of good counsel defenders in the end zone. Talk about that play and what Vessels brought to the table tonight.
Well, he's always brought a lot of heart with his game. He's always been passionate. And this year he's really come in stronger than ever. And while he might not take 20 carries for us a game, certainly when we need tough yards, he's got it in his mind to get those.
Obviously able to do it there. Quick injury question, Coach. Talik Mann, your quarterback, limped off after the second play of overtime. How's he looking after the contest?
He was very optimistic. Obviously, we got to get him checked out further by our medical staff. But he was all smiles and very optimistic after the game.
Most obviously, because he would be able to get that big win. We talked about your schedule, and again, there's no let up for you guys as you face off with the Matha coming up next. How do you see early that one, and how do you see your team kind of going forward in WCAC play? How are you positioned right now after this victory tonight?
Well, certainly the Matha has a tough combination of tremendous speed and tremendous strength. And so I think that we need to certainly step up our game, tighten up a few things. But certainly winning the first game in conference play gives us tremendous momentum.
Obviously so. And again, as you said, this all kind of builds towards the WCAC finals. And that's all what it's about. Again, real quickly, we'll wrap it up on this one, Coach. Talking to Joe Patterson, head coach of St. John's, his team with a big win tonight over good counsel. How does it feel? And I guess, this is maybe a vague question, but how does it feel being in a league like this where every game is so tough, but in essence, so rewarding if you're able to get the victories?
Well, you said it. This conference has no parallel because every team brings tremendous talent and has very good coaching. So the level of play, the players that you get to play against, and certainly the players that you get to play with on your own team, just very satisfying because there is so much talent.
And obviously you've got plenty of talent on your own end. Your team with a big win tonight, 29-23 over number 2 Good Counsel in 3 overtimes. Head coach Joe Patterson, congratulations on the huge win tonight.
I really appreciate it.
And, of course, Coach Patterson, again, doing a great job at St. John's there with the cadets. They are a team that always is one to be reckoned with. A couple years ago, they were able to go ahead and end up in the WCAC finals, lost to DeMatha that time. But, again, they were there, and they're a team where you don't see that a lot. A conference that's been dominated by DeMatha and good counsel over the last few years. To get there into the championship game, always a big deal. And Coach Patterson building something special over there at St. John's. And again, this year, not only that might not be just in play for them, but also, the District of Columbia state championship, if you will. Gonzaga won that. The Eagles maybe a bit down over what they've been the last few years. They're still a quality opponent. So St. John's may have that to play for as well after the season's over with. So a lot on the plate for the cadets coming up in the near future. Quick rundown of the top 20. If you haven't got all the scores, we told you about the one just moments ago. A Good Counsel with the win tonight, or excuse me, St. John's with the win tonight over Good Counsel. 29-23 in 3 overtimes. Number 18 knocks off number 23. Number 1 DeMatha, the cadets' next opponent. Big win tonight, 49-0 over St. Mary's Riken. Number 3 Damascus beat Poolesville 49-0. It was number 4 Lake Braddock over West Potomac 24-21. Number 5 South County beats West Springfield 42-40. Number 6 Westfield over number 17 Stonebridge 28-7. Elsewhere, it was number 7 Old Mill over number 19 Arundel 29-13. Number 8 Duval at Parkdale tomorrow. Number 9 Wise at Northwestern tomorrow. Number 10 Tuscarora over number 20 Centerville 49-42. Number 11 Seneca Valley over Rockville 49-0. It was number 12 Broad Run over crosstown rival Briar Woods 31-24. Number 13 Northwest over Whitman 42-7. It was number 14 Quince Orchard beating Clarksburg 55-14. Number 16 Howard over Mount Hebron 35-0. Number 18 Gonzaga hosts McNamara tomorrow. That a 1 p.m. start. That's your look at the top 20. We'll run down the scores more through the show. Again, you want to get in touch with us, do it at DMV Stream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. That's DMV Stream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Coming up, we will hear from the head coach of the Westfield Bulldogs. That'd be Kyle Simmons. His team with a big win tonight as they knock off Westfield at number 6, beats number 17 Stonebridge by a count of 28-7. Big win tonight for the Westfield Bulldogs over the Stonebridge Bulldogs. We'll hear from Coach Simmons coming up right after this. Looking for some of the best barbecue in the area? Well, then come on down to Monk's. Monk's Barbecue has all your favorites. Delicious pulled pork, tender, moist brisket, and dry rubbed ribs that just fall off the bone, as well as specialty items like pulled chicken, pastrami, and Kansas City burnt ends. Add in delicious sides like Monk's special baked beans, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, vinegar coleslaw, and many more, and you can't get any better. That's Monk's Barbecue in the heart of Loudoun County, online at monksq.com. That's monks in the letter Q.com. And go to their Facebook page to find out more about their live music and drinks.
DMVSTREAM.com produces live broadcasts for professional, semi-pro, and amateur sporting events, as well as colleges, universities, high schools, AAU, and youth tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic. With a client list that includes ESPN, The Washington Post, Monumental Sports Network, CBS.com, USAFootball.com, USLacrosse.org, NCAA.com, the National Federation of High School Sports, and Georgetown University, among others, Synthesis Multimedia has emerged as the Mid-Atlantic's top provider of sports multimedia. Contact us today to learn more about streaming your events live.
Are you a fan of high school sports? Does high school sports attract the type of customers you want for your business? If so, then consider advertising here on The Final Drive. The Final Drive on DMVSTREAM.com is a weekly show dedicated to high school football in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We update scores and talk to the movers and shakers from Friday night's top games, and we preview the big matchups from Saturday's action. So consider being a part of The Final Drive. For more information about advertising on The Final Drive, contact Jeremy Huber at jrh0001@gmail.com. That's jrh0001@gmail.com. Montgomery Shade and Awning is a third-generation family business that sells and installs shade systems utilizing awnings and canopies. They specialize in both commercial and residential awnings and have been serving Northern Virginia since 1975. So check out what Rob, Lewis, Brian, and Tom can do for you. Montgomery Shade and Awning. Call 1-800-300-1941 or find them online at montgomeryawning.com. Welcome back into the final drive here on DMVSTREAM.com. I'm Jeremy Huber with you, as I am every Friday night, as we talk about what's going on in the world of high school football in the district, Maryland and Virginia. That's why we call it the final drive, or we call it DMV Stream's final drive, as we take it all on for you. Of course, coming up in just a bit, we'll hear from Blue head coach Jason Lane, his squad with a nice win tonight over rival HD Woodson. Also, as a little bit of a payback for the Turkey Bowl loss that they had to the Warriors last year. Also, later on in the show, we'll hear from head coach Tony Verducci, the Bishop Ireton Cardinals. They look to stay undefeated tomorrow as they'll face off with a very good Episcopal team. Again, you want to get in touch with us here on the final drive, do it at DMV Stream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMV Stream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Joined now by the head coach of the 6th-ranked Westfield Bulldogs, Kyle Simmons. His squad with a nice win tonight over number 17 Stonebridge, 28-7. First off, Coach, congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. Very satisfying.
Obviously, this is an interesting game, even though it's out of conference. You guys in Stonebridge have played each other over the last few years. I remember, covering high school sports in Loudoun County. This was a big deal when you two squads first got together, and obviously any win over them is satisfying tonight. Talk about what you guys were able to do coming out against the quality opponent like Stonebridge, a little bit undermanned yourself with some of the suspension issues you've been dealing with, and able to come out and get a win like this.
Yeah, so you're correct. They're a quality program, and it's a battle every time. They're a little unconventional offensively, and give us, give anybody some trouble. But the issues we've been having, we've got some guys playing that probably didn't think they were ever going to see the field on Friday night. We've got guys playing positions that they weren't expecting to play, and I'm just really proud of how they've stepped up and done things that maybe they didn't think they could do. And I'm proud of the staff for, the adversity we've been through and not giving up and trying to find solutions. And this was just really a good win for us. And defensively, we just played lights out. We gave up one big play that I know they're really unhappy with over on the defensive side of the ball. But, they kept us in the game and allowed us to kind of plug away on offense and, rush for, a few yards here and a few yards there, and a cloud of throw it every once in a while and try to make something happen. But the defense is really what kept us in the game.
Yeah, the defense had a great performance tonight, holding Stonebridge to 7 points. I know their quarterback, Joe Thompson, did go down, but they had a good drive after that. Speaking of good drives, it seemed like on the offensive side of things, really a team effort tonight. No one guy kind of stood out. Everyone kind of contributing, correct?
Yeah, the only guy I would say maybe stood out was Jack Clancy, who we asked to get some snaps on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think he missed one defensive or one offensive snap. That may be a record in what nobody's ever done that before.
Yeah, and obviously, it's one of those things for you guys in a tough game like that, something to get through. Kind of looking at this game from, again, on the defensive side, you talked about a really good performance. Who are some guys that stood out for you on the defense?
Well, the single wing offense puts a lot of stress on your D line, and I thought the guys inside really did a nice job getting push and allowing our linebackers to scrape and make plays. So I really do think it was a total team effort there as far as defense goes. I don't know that you could got any one guy. I mean, certainly Jack Clancy, never coming off the field. He's a great defensive player. JILO and defensive line, all of them did a great job.
Talking to head coach Kyle Simmons of the Westfield Bulldogs, this team getting a nice win over Stonebridge tonight, 28-7. Coach, interesting thing, and he draws a lot of attention because of the fact of his basketball exploits, but your quarterback, Tyler Scanlon, obviously a guy who's done some good things for you. Talk a little about him.
Well, what he's done is just try to get better every week, and he spends a lot of time watching film. He's very analytical. He wants to win, and he wants to do whatever it needs to be done to win. So I'm just really proud of how hard he's worked and he's hung in there, and he's starting to become a team leader. And, we're going to see his best football in front of him.
Is it interesting to you the fact that he goes from wide receiver to quarterback for you at a program like yours? Let's not kid ourselves. Your program's one of the top ones in all of Virginia, and to see a kind of guy transition like that, have you ever had that before in your years of coaching?
No, I think generally quarterbacks, they come up in this program as quarterbacks. So I don't know how I couldn't play quarterback his junior year, but we had a guy here that was kind of established. Tyler was coming in a little late as far as, getting enrolled here at Westfield. And we just thought, based on where we were at that time, that he was a better weapon at wide receiver. And, I hope that sometime, down the road this season that we can get him out there getting some catches again, playing both quarterback and wide receiver. But we need to get some more guys back before we can think about that.
Well, obviously, you guys have got some things going on the year, running your record to 3-1, the lone loss coming against South County, a very quality opponent. And now this gets you into the meat grinder. And I think you can always say with you guys it's the meat grinder considering the league you play in. But how do you feel for kind of going forward? You start next week in conference play against Oakton. Then there's some more really tough teams. How do you feel your team stands right now at this point in the season?
Well, this really is it puts us on a roll getting this win, and this is something that we just needed for our confidence and needed for the fact that we've been through so much adversity in the last 3 weeks. So the first thing I tell the kids after a win is we're going to celebrate this win. I'm not going to worry about Oakton tonight, and probably won't worry about Oakton until tomorrow afternoon. And you're right, it is a grind, but our program's used to it. We plan on playing in December, and that's our goal. So we just try to find ways to get better each week and put ourselves in a position to be ready for that grind, whether it be rest, weight room, nutrition, whatever it is. We just try to keep rolling in the direction of December.
One last one for you, Coach. We'll let you go after this, but in that vein, the teams on your schedule, obviously playing out of conference, you play two of the quality Loudoun County teams in Stonebridge and Briar Woods. Obviously, your district takes a backseat to nobody, and then, of course, South County as well. There's a possibility you're playing, 8 playoff teams on this schedule. Is there ever anything in the back of your mind you say, hey, man, we might have to hold something back because we're going to see these guys down the road? Or is it just, hey, let's just win the game and worry about that later?
Well, I don't think we think about holding anything back. I don't think that's ever part of our coaching conversations when we meet in game plan. But, you're just constantly, it's kind of like math class. You're trying to just build on what you did previously. And, we found some things tonight that maybe we didn't realize we could do that we can, and you just build off of those. So some of the things that may be coming up in the future, I can't even anticipate. So, the goal is that a lot of teams make the playoffs the way it works out right now, and we just want to make sure we make the playoffs and be ready to do some damage when we get there.
Well, I think from the performances so far this year, Coach, your team's going to be able to do that. Kyle Simmons, head coach of the Westfield Bulldogs. They knock off Stonebridge tonight, 28-7. Coach, congratulations, and thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for your support of Westfield football.
And Coach Simmons, obviously, with a great program there, and his team with a nice win tonight against Stonebridge, 28-7. Again, their lone loss on the year to a very good South County team. That right after they had some suspensions, some guys caught at a party, I believe, according to the Washington Post, some underage drinking there, and that's different day suspensions for some of those guys. They'll come back, but you kind of wonder, at least from what Coach talked about there, the guys that have come in for them have really done a good job kind of keeping the ship afloat. And I think a little bit of help for Westfield as they had a game against TC Williams in the middle of their schedule, and TC, an up-and-coming program, they were able to go ahead and get the win tonight over Mount Vernon. So obviously, no slouch there. Gave Oakton a pretty good game. But if you're Kyle Simmons, you probably had to like the fact that in between those games against South County and Stonebridge, two teams who perennial playoff teams, high level in the highest levels of Virginia football, you had a game there where you could kind of get your feet under you. That actually was a Saturday game as well, so give them an extra day of preparation, maybe to kind of say, okay, how are we going to move forward on this, and move forward they have. went over TC last week by 2 touchdowns. This week, a 3-touchdown win over Stonebridge. Again, Bulldogs, the Stonebridge Bulldogs, that is, had their quarterback Joe Thompson go down with an ankle injury. But it's still a quality program there, and Westfield able to get the win. They'll move on with games against Oakton, then Briar Woods, then Robinson, then Centerville. Robinson had a nice win tonight, kind of routing Oakton surprisingly. Then Centerville obviously with a tough one against Tuscarora, but definitely looked more like themselves as opposed to last week's blowout loss to Broad Run. So obviously doesn't get any easier for Westfield, but they'll take the win tonight. A big one for them. Couple of lookouts on what's going on tonight. We talked about number 4 Lake Braddock with a win over West Potomac, a little bit closer than I think people thought. But again, Braddock didn't throw the ball that well, but able to get a lot of rushing yards in that one. Kyle Edwards with the winning touchdown in that contest. Also, he had 61 yards. Lamont Atkins had 93 yards in that matchup for Lake Braddock in that matchup. So they able to go ahead and get the win. Other games of note, Quince Orchard again had a big one over tonight over Clarksburg, 55-14. Kind of blew things open, put 3 backs over 100 yards on the ground. So again, 21-14 lead for Quince Orchard. They blow it open in the second half with the 34 points in the second stanza. So big win for Quince Orchard there, kind of getting themselves back on the right foot after that early season loss to Damascus. They're looking like a force to be reckoned with once again. Also, North Point moving to 4-0 on the season as they get the 23-7 win. North Point losing Andre Gathers with an ankle injury in that one, but able to go ahead and get the win over Westlake in that contest. Westlake falls to 3-1 on the season. Well, we're going to go ahead and take another break. We'll be back after this. We'll run down the scoreboards from your private schools from Maryland and Virginia. Also, we'll hear from head coach of the Blue Knights, Jason Lane. That's coming up right after this here on the Final Drive. Remember, you want to tweet us, do it at DMVStream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMVStream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. More after this. Looking for some of the best barbecue in the area? Well, then come on down to Monk's. Monk's Barbecue has all your favorites: delicious pulled pork, tender, moist brisket, and dry rubbed ribs that just fall off the bone, as well as specialty items like pulled chicken, pastrami, and Kansas City burnt ends. Add in delicious sides like Monk's special baked beans, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, vinegar coleslaw, and many more, and you can't get any better. That's Monk's Barbecue in the heart of Loudoun County, online at monksq.com. That's monks and the letter Q.com. And go to their Facebook page to find out more about their live music and drinks.
DMVSTREAM.com produces live broadcasts for professional, semi-pro, and amateur sporting events, as well as colleges, universities, high schools, AAU, and youth tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic. With a client list that includes ESPN, The Washington Post, Monumental Sports Network, CBS.com, USAFootball.com, USLacrosse.org, NCAA.com, the National Federation of High School Sports, and Georgetown University, among others, Synthesis Multimedia has emerged as the Mid-Atlantic's top provider of sports multimedia. Contact us today to learn more about streaming your events live.
Are you a fan of high school sports? Does high school sports attract the type of customers you want for your business? If so, then consider advertising here on The Final Drive. The Final Drive on DMVStream.com is a weekly show dedicated to high school football in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We update scores and talk to the movers and shakers from Friday night's top games, and we preview the big matchups from Saturday's action. So consider being a part of The Final Drive. For more information about advertising on The Final Drive, contact Jeremy Huber at jrh0001@gmail.com. That's jrh0001@gmail.com. Montgomery Shade and Awning is a third-generation family business that sells and installs shade systems utilizing awnings and canopies. They specialize in both commercial and residential awnings and have been serving Northern Virginia since 1975. So check out what Rob, Lewis, Brian, and Tom can do for you. Montgomery Shade and Awning, Call 1-800-300-1941 or find them online at montgomeryawning.com. Welcome back to the final drive here on DMVSTREAM.com. Let's go ahead and run you down the scores again in your top 20 quick highlights as we've given to you a few times tonight. Number 1, DeMatha winner. Number 18, St. John's upsets Good Counsel in 3 overtimes. Number 3, Damascus rolled. Number 4, Lake Braddock over West Potomac in a close one. Number 5, South County over West Springfield in a close one. Number 6, Westfield over number 17, Stonebridge. Number 7, Old Mill over number 19, Arundel. Elsewhere, it was number 10, Tuscarora over Centerville, while number 11, Seneca Valley rolled over Rockville. Number 12, Broad Run edges Briar Woods. Number 13, Northwest over Whitman. Number 14, Quince Orchard beat Clarksburg. Number 16, Howard over Mount Hebron. All right, over to everybody else. We have seen tonight, it was Bullis getting a win over Avalon by a count of 36-18. This just in, Quantico, a winner over Brunswick Academy 42-8. Riverdale Baptist over Landon 28-7. Pilate Falls Archbishop Curley 14-7. John Paul the Great over Paul the Sixth Catholic 31-14. It was Spalding over St. Francis 28-14. Of course, the big one in D.C. tonight, that was Ballou with an 8-6 win over H.D. Woodson. In that contest, Ballou again getting a little bit of revenge for their loss in the Turkey Bowl last year. Again, I think one that Ballou was really looking forward to getting a win in that contest. Joined now by the head coach of the victorious Ballou Knights, Jason Lane. His team getting a big win tonight over H.D. Woodson, 8-6. First off, Coach Lane, congratulations on the victory.
Thank you.
Obviously, for your guys, it was one of those kind of bragging rights, payback type games after you lose in the Turkey Bowl last year. How much focus was there by your guys to kind of give one to the Warriors after losing the last one last season?
I mean, pretty much it wasn't a situation of payback. It's more so a situation of, being disrespected. And the quote in the paper, the quote that was put in the paper was more so that almost like we haven't won and beaten that team since 2009, which telling me that you basically saying you're trying to say you own us. And we found that disrespectful, and we just wanted to lay it on the line and play hard, good-nosed, hard football and come out with a win, and that's what we did.
And it seemed like tonight, especially early on, some mistakes a little bit maybe on their end. You guys hold them down defensively. Talk about the performance of your defense to hold a pretty good Woodson team to just 6 points.
Well, to be honest with you, the defense has been the backbone of this team probably for the last 3 years. And that's what we based our, it's a Rex Ryan effect. You play good defense. Your offense don't make many mistakes. You right time 9 out of 10 call victorious. And that's what we did tonight.
Offensively, obviously, you didn't have much, but you got enough. Talk about some guys who did it on that side of the ball.
On the offense, actually, we played a backup quarterback, Kenneth Harrison. He's a young kid, he's a sophomore kid that we went with tonight because the starter couldn't play. And the kids rallied around him, and we got the win.
Very impressive to go ahead and do that. Coach, in a situation like this where you've got to see Woodson a few times in the season, how do you attack the first game against them?
Pretty much, I mean, it gives us confidence. You know what I'm saying? The main thing we wanted to do was control the interior. And we had a high rotation of guys where we controlled the interior. We stayed fresh in the interior, which we kind of wear people down.
And, Coach, approaching the rest of the season, how do you kind of see this as a jumping-off point for you guys?
I see it as a point that it sets the tone. It sets the tone of going into league play to the point where we're setting the tone where we can control our own destiny.
Obviously, a big one for you guys tonight. Coach Jason Lane, head coach of Ballou. They knock off Woodson in a close one, 8-6. Again, Coach, congratulations on the victory.
All right, thank you.
And again, a short interview there with Coach as his phone having a little issues, a little feedback issue there. But again, he was very happy with his team, that win tonight, as Ballou able to go ahead and knock off H.D. Woodson. Of course, it's one of those things where the D.C. teams really play each other twice in the regular season and in the playoffs as well. So they'll be meeting up a few more times on the season. Should be some very good games in the rest of the way, as this one tonight was hard fought between the Warriors and the Knights in D.C. Let's pick up the rest of our scoreboard. We'll continue in D.C., where it was Phelps over Cardozo 24-23. Dunbar beat Coolidge 20-14. McKinley fell to Eastern 25-23. Bell beat Theodore Roosevelt 50-20. Wilson over Anacostia 53-20. Over in Maryland, Annapolis over South River 20-12. It was Blair over Churchill 45-zip. Walkersville over Blake 48-0. Marriott's Ridge over Centennial 28-3. Douglas beat Gwynn Park 37-8. It was Largo over Forestville 14-6. Gaithersburg beat Walter Johnson 48-35. Chesapeake over Glen Burnie 35-24. Glen Elg over Hammond 21-6. Paint Branch beat Kennedy 47-7. Patuxent over La Plata 42-0. Thomas Stone beat Lackey 33-6. Oakland Mills over Longreach 43-0. Calvert beat McDonough 40-8. Broadneck over North County 31-13. North Point beats Westlake 23-7. Meade over Northeast 47-7. Northern over Leonardtown 29-7. It was Bethesda Chevy Chase over Northwood 28-7. Reservoir over River Hill 12-9. Sherwood continues. They stay unbeaten as they beat Springbrook tonight 50-20. Sherwood's got a big one coming up. They take on Northwest next week. Severna Park over Southern 37-0. It was Chopticon over St. Charles 13-7. Watkins Mill beat Magruder 22-19. Richard Montgomery over Wooten 21-20. Wild Lake over Atherton 34-0. Over in Virginia, Brentsville improves to 4-0 on the season. They beat Riverside 42-6. Brook Point over Osborne 35-20. It was Champ over Parkview 44-0. Chantilly over Herndon 69-31. Loudon Valley beats Dominion 26-13. Eastern View over Manassas Park 50-7 tonight. Just got that score in. Freedom of Woodbridge over Garfield 56-26. Heritage beat Rockridge 51-27. Leesburg's Pride at 5-0 on the season. First time in school history Heritage goes to 5-0 on a year to start things off. It was Edison over Jefferson 52-26. Madison beat Langley 14-7. It was Freedom South Riding over Loudoun County 40-22. South Lakes beat McLean 42-0. South Lakes moves to 3-1 on the season. North Stafford over Battlefield 20-17. Battlefield dropping games down to those schools down in the Stafford, Fredericksburg area, second week in a row after getting off to a real good start. Remember, Battlefield beat Hilton in the season opener. Robinson over Oakton 42-17. Stafford beat Osborne Park 41-21. Mountain View over Patriot 56-35. It was Potomac Falls over Marshall 31-13. Potomac of Virginia over Stonewall Jackson 45-7. Lee beat Stewart 14-9. T.C. Williams over Mount Vernon 27-6. Annandale over W.T. Woodson in a shootout 48-43. Wakefield beat Falls Church 24-20. It was Hayfield over Washington Lee 35-16. Couple scores just in. George Mason beats William Monroe 23-14. Hilton over Woodbridge tonight 41-7. Woodgrove went over to Winchester, gets a win over Millbrook 31-28 in double OT. And it was Yorktown over Fairfax tonight 28-7. That's your look at the scoreboard. We're going to come back after this. We will hear from the head coach of Bishop Ireton, Tony Verducci, his team with a big one against Episcopal tomorrow. Also, we'll run down tomorrow's schedule. That's all coming up after this. Remember, want to get in touch with us, do it on Twitter at DMVStream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMVStream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. More after this here on The Final Drive. Looking for some of the best barbecue in the area? Well, then come on down to Monk's. Monk's Barbecue has all your favorites. Delicious pulled pork, tender, moist brisket, and dry rubbed ribs that just fall off the bone, as well as specialty items like pulled chicken, pastrami, and Kansas City burn ends. Add in delicious sides like Monk's Special Baked Beans, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, vinegar coleslaw, and many more, and you can't get any better. That's Monk's Barbecue in the heart of Loudoun County, online at monksq.com. That's monks and the letter Q.com. And go to their Facebook page to find out more about their live music and drinks.
DMVSTREAM.com produces live broadcasts for professional, semi-pro, and amateur sporting events as well as colleges, universities, high schools, AAU, and youth tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic. With a client list that includes ESPN, The Washington Post, Monumental Sports Network, CBS.com, USAFootball.com, USLacrosse.org, NCAA.com, the National Federation of High School Sports, and Georgetown University, among others, Synthesis Multimedia has emerged as the Mid-Atlantic's top provider of sports multimedia. Contact us today to learn more about streaming your events live.
Are you a fan of high school sports? Does high school sports attract the type of customers you want for your business? If so, then consider advertising here on The Final Drive. The Final Drive on DMVSTREAM.COM is a weekly show dedicated to high school football in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We update scores and talk to the movers and shakers from Friday night's top games, and we preview the big matchups from Saturday's action. So consider being a part of The Final Drive. For more information about advertising on The Final Drive, contact Jeremy Huber at jrh0001@gmail.com. That's jrh0001@gmail.com. Montgomery Shade and Awning is a third-generation family business that sells and installs shade systems utilizing awnings and canopies. They specialize in both commercial and residential awnings and have been serving Northern Virginia since 1975. So check out what Rob, Lewis, Brian, and Tom can do for you. Montgomery Shade and Awning. Call 1-800-300-1941 or find them online at montgomeryawning.com. Welcome back into The Final Drive. We wrap things up right now. Of course, tomorrow on the schedule, 3 matchups that include ranked teams. They include number 8 Duval going to Parkdale for a 2 o'clock start. Also tomorrow, it'll be the number 9 ranked Wise as the Pumas take on Northwestern. That is at Northwestern. That's a 2 p.m. start as well. Also tomorrow, it'll be number 18 Gonzaga as they'll host McNamara, a 1 p.m. start in D.C. at Gonzaga. Also, one of note tomorrow, it'll be the Episcopal, one of the challengers in the IAC. They'll be on the road at Bishop Ireton. Of course, Ireton looking to move to 4-0 on the season. Of course, they had some might not be too impressed with that, but in that 3-0 start, they did have a win over O'Connell, one of the first in a long time for Ireton, knocking off O'Connell. They'll look now to knock off one of their neighborhood rivals just a couple minutes down the road in Episcopal tomorrow. That one a 2 p.m. start at Bishop Ireton. In advance of that one, had a chance to catch up with the head coach of the Cardinals, Tony Verducci. Coach Verducci, obviously your squad's off to a 3-0 start, a good one. I think maybe the jewel of it, from what most would say, is that win over O'Connell. Talk a bit about the start and maybe the victory and maybe the confidence your Cardinals are going with right now.
Well, I think that, we look at the end of last year and losing to a really talented Benedictine team in the Virginia Independent School State Championship game. And I think when you suffer that kind of defeat, you either come back with a greater resolution to make the next step, or you just, worry about the one that got away. I think that we've got 19 seniors who have been shown great leadership and have really come back with a great focus to put ourselves in position each week to win football games. And so far, it's worked to our advantage for those first 3 games.
Yeah, you guys have put up some impressive offensive numbers. Talk about a few guys on the offensive end that really are kind of making their mark so far.
Well, I think number 1, you start with number 2, Paris Jones, our junior running back, had 197 yards against St. Albans last weekend. Paris is truly one of those young men who's a threat to turn a 3-yard play into a 30-yard play, and it's great. We really haven't had a running back like that since Moses Webb, who's doing some great things up at Sacred Heart University. And then I think in terms of our receiving core, we lost a really talented guy at the graduation, Drew Smith, who's playing up at Villanova. At the same point in time, Drew's brother Sam and my son Ryan were our second and third leading receivers on the team last year, and having both of them back has allowed our quarterbacks, who are both new in terms of starting at the varsity level, Walker Venable and Chandler Wilder, to know that they've got some guys who know how to run routes, that if they get their hands on the ball, they're going to make a catch. And so far, our effectiveness running the football has allowed us to throw because we want to throw and not because we have to throw.
On the defensive side of things, Coach, Corey Johnson, one of your standouts there at the defensive backfield, obviously a team leader. Talk about a little bit about him and what he brings to your D.
Well, Corey is one of those guys who just allows everybody in the defensive backfield to relax and play their game. They know that he's going to take care of business, that he's got that moxie, a little bit of swagger to him, that he expects to make a play on every ball that's thrown on his side of the field. I think it's important to note that in addition to him, we have, Charlie Ladd, who's a senior safety. We have Alex Duke, who's a senior safety, and we have a junior transfer by the name of Kojo Otang, who really give us depth there. And the first guy off the bench is our backup quarterback, Chandler Wilder. So together, we think that that's a really talented group who are capable of making plays, but of course they rely on what happens up front. And this is probably as deep a team that we've had on the defensive line as I can remember in quite some time. Senior defensive end, Andy Grogan, a junior defensive end, Mal Sullivan, whose brother's playing as a freshman over at Navy, and then the strength in between the two of them with senior Trey Levisone, junior Joseph Wenger, and a sophomore transfer by the name of Gary Raymond has really been terrific. And then we got three linebackers who started for us all last year, Joey Sedlars and Bernie Hayes III, seniors, and then junior Mike Everett, who may be the most talented defensive player that we have on the whole group.
Talking to Tony Verducci, the head coach of the Bishop Ireton Cardinals, going for a 4-0 record this weekend as they take on Episcopal. Let's talk about that Episcopal team, Coach. Obviously, a very good team under Pennis Vergulis in the last few years. What do they bring to the table, and what worries you about the Maroon?
Well, first thing you know that they're a really well-coached club, a disciplined club as well, and they have a few standout football players. I don't think that across the front line they're necessarily as big as they were last year, but they've got playmakers in the backfield. They've got Patrice back, who is playing on both sides of the ball this year. He was enough of a headache as a corner last year that to think about him getting his hands on the ball on the offensive side is the kind of thing as a coach that keeps you up at night. So they're 1-0, and the old adage is that your greatest improvement as a team comes between week 1 and week 2, and if that's the case, looking at how flawlessly they played the first 3 quarters against Paul VI, I'm hoping they can't get a lot better than that, because they were just fundamentally sound. They ran the inside zone particularly well. They hit their fast screens for big plays, and defensively, all of our coaches are really impressed by how consistently outstanding their kids, top to bottom, all 11 on the field, play their assignments. You just don't see people out of position, and you see them reacting exactly as their assignments are called for. So that's a really talented staff over there, and there's a bunch of smart football players who are doing what they're asked to do. And let's face it, that's one of the keys to success on the defensive side of the ball.
One more, we'll wrap it up with you, Coach. A lot of stories done, especially around 9/11, the fact that you guys have really a coaching staff, including yourself, that is a military, your former military, a lot of your coaches are, some of your players are from military families. Talk about maybe the military aspect of kind of how important that is to maybe your team with the Cardinals.
I think that as coaches, and I think that amongst our parents, there's a sense that we're going to have a disciplined, organized program. We're going to challenge young men to think beyond themselves to what they can do for the team. And, it's a luxury for me as a head football coach to understand that, I have guys that are coming in the afternoon and in the evening and on Sundays to game plan who really have one thing in mind, and that is to give back to young men. This game of football is our ministry as coaches to raise the intellectual firepower of our young men, to see them make sacrifices and to achieve things, quite frankly, that, honestly, on a day-to-day basis, they may not think that they're necessarily capable of doing. But when you start thinking about the guys on your right and on your left, and not wanting to let them down, that motivating factor is one that, from soup to nuts, as a coaching staff, as our parents, and I think that's a really important part of it. You hear a lot of people who talk about, parents' involvement being a distraction in high school athletics and youth sports, things along those lines. We're incredibly fortunate about the fact that, our parents not only entrust us with their most valuable, with the most valuable thing in their lives, their sons. And we take that obligation very seriously and are able to do our job knowing that we have the support of the parents, and our kids all know that their parents support us. And so I think that's another thing. They understand that they're going to do things the Ireton way, or they're not going to be part of our program very long.
Well, the Ireton way working pretty well so far, undefeated on the year. You'll try and keep it going this weekend against Episcopal. Tony Verducci, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Go Cardinals.
And Coach Verducci, again, interesting, didn't get to it in the interview, but Coach Verducci, his brother, the baseball writer Tom Verducci. So a very successful family. Also, Coach Verducci's brother, I believe an NFL coach right now, or high college. Also, he coached under Gary Tranquil, the longtime NFL assistant. So a lot of successful people in Coach Verducci's life. And his father was a longtime successful coach up in New Jersey. So he really knows the game, and he'll be looking to run his team's record to 4-0 tomorrow as they take on Episcopal. Well, we're going to wrap it up right now. The final drive, I want to let you know what's going on tomorrow. If you would like to catch a game tomorrow, if high school football is more your speed than the college game, let's do it right now. Of course, we talked about the game with Ireton and Episcopal, also the ranked teams. A lot of kind of test games tomorrow. Annapolis area Christian will be at Concordia Prep at 1 p.m. start. Bowie goes to Parkdale. Of course, Bowie looking to keep their things going so far, having a great start to their season. The Bowie so far on the campaign, I believe undefeated on the year. So obviously they're having a nice start to their season, as they will face off in a 2 p.m. start tomorrow against Parkdale, as Bowie again looks to stay undefeated. Wins over Westminster, Oxon Hill, and Suitland already. That Suitland had coming a long time, so they'll look for another win over Parkdale tomorrow before they have really the meat of their schedule late in the year with Eleanor Roosevelt, Wise, and Duval on the schedule. Speaking of Eleanor Roosevelt, they'll host C.H. Flowers tomorrow in a 7 p.m. start tomorrow night. Carroll looks to go ahead and stay undefeated on the year. They will go ahead and face off with O'Connell tomorrow. That one will be in Arlington, as Carroll looks for the win on the road. Carroll coming to that one undefeated on the season. So they, again, trying to have the Lions trying to be resurgent in the WCAC, and a win over a somewhat struggling O'Connell team would probably go pretty far in the way of doing that tomorrow. Elsewhere, Central will be at Friendly in a 2 o'clock start. It's Crossland taking on Surrattsville at 2. Duval, of course, in the number 8 in the All-Met Sports poll. They'll be taking on Parkdale, taking on Laurel tomorrow in their contest. There'll be Einstein and Wheaton tomorrow in a 2 p.m. start. It's Episcopal. They'll be against Bishop Ireton tomorrow. Talked about that with Coach Verducci. Potomac of Maryland hosting Fairmont Heights in a 2 o'clock start tomorrow. Flint Hill goes to Collegiate of Richmond tomorrow at 1:30. Friendship Collegiate hosting Imhotep at 1 tomorrow. Murray at Friends of Baltimore at 2:30. Gonzaga, number 18, hosting McNamara at 1 tomorrow. National Christian at Frederick County Homeschool in a 2 p.m. start. Potomac School at St. Stephen, St. Agnes at 1 tomorrow. Sidwell Friends travels to Fredericksburg Christian for a 2 o'clock start. Severn School welcomes in St. Albans at noon. It'll be St. Mary's of Annapolis at Boys Latin, 1:30 start there. Oxon Hill hosting Suitland at 2, and then it'll be Northwestern against Wise. That will be a 2 p.m. start. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the final drive. I want to thank all of our wonderful guests tonight. Again, it was a great show, as they've all been so far. Only do it when we have the cooperation of the coaches willing to come on and talk about their team's big wins, and a few of the guys were able to come and do that tonight. Of course, Joe Patterson, the head coach of number 18 St. John's, his squad with a win over number 2 Good Counsel tonight. Number 6 Westfield, their head coach Kyle Simmons also joined us to talk about his team's win over Stonebridge. It was also head coach of Ballou, Jason Lane, talking about his team's big win over H.D. Woodson tonight. And of course, wrapping up the show, Tony Verducci, head coach of Bishop Ireton, his Cardinals looking for a win to go to 4-0 as they face off with Episcopal tomorrow afternoon. That's going to do it here. Again, want to give us some feedback. Do it by tweeting us at DMV Stream, hashtagging it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMV Stream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. I'm Jeremy Huber. This has been the Final Drive. We'll see you next week.